My name is Therese Kadis, and I'm a senior at the University of Washington, majoring in environmental studies. And I had the chance to intern with Washington State Department of Natural Resources and work on a project monitoring birds to assess forest habitat in the Olympic Experimental State Forest. Instead of collecting point count data, this project is listening to birdsong. Passive acoustic monitoring was used to capture the forest soundscape. At the top of the screen, you'll see a picture of an acoustic recording unit attached to a tree. And in 2020, these were placed throughout the OESF across 4 different forest stages to record birds, to listen in on birdsong. So 10 bird species were selected as indicators, and my role was to help process these acoustic surveys, verifying presence or absence of these birds, and also listening for things like jet noise and rain. And to do this, I visually and audibly inspected spectrograms. So at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a spectrogram, which is a visual representation of sound. And this happens to be the 3-syllable song of the Pacific Slope flycatcher. So the 10 birds of interest in this study do occupy a wide range of habitat throughout the OESF. And what I chose to do is take a look at 2 particular birds of interest on kind of 2 opposite ends of the habitat spectrum. The first bird that I looked at is on the left. It's the Pacific Slope flycatcher. And this bird is known to inhabit mature, mixed conifer and broadleaf areas, really likes shady habitat, but also those open gaps to catch its insect prey mid-air. And a good understory is also important for this bird for forage. On the other end of the spectrum, on the right-hand side, is the orange-crowned warbler. And this bird's known to inhabit early sterile forests. So young trees wide open, also really depends on a healthy shrub understory. So deciduous shrub layers such as salal, salmonberry, currant, snowberry, vine maple, and ferns as well. Those are all really important for this leaf gleaning bird. So looking at the presence absence data for these 2 birds, the bar chart on the left shows that Pacific Slope flycatcher was mainly found in competitive exclusion, thinned and mature areas of the OESF. Only 10 instances of Pacific Slope flycatcher were in stand initiation areas. And then looking at, what factors may impact occupancy and detection, we looked at things like Julian day, forest stage for occupancy covariates. And then we looked at aircraft noise and rain and Julian day again for detection variables. So the table on the left-hand side shows the top 5 best fit models of these occupancy modeling estimates. And what it basically shows is that forest stage or strata was the strongest driver of occupancy for this bird. So really adhering to what we would expect for the habitat it is known to prefer, which are the more shady areas, not so much in that stand initiation phase. Interestingly, aircraft had a slight positive effect on detection, and as did Julian day. Rain, as we expected, had a slight negative impact on detection. And moving over to the right, doing the same for the orange-crowned warbler, the first thing we notice here is that there were fewer total observations. Second, we found this bird almost exclusively in stand initiation areas. Only 1 instance of this bird was in thinned forest. And looking at variables that would perhaps impact occupancy or detection, down below where the table shows the top 5 best fitting models from our occupancy modeling, shows that strata or forest stage again was the strongest driver of occupancy for this bird. And aircraft also did show a slight positive effect on detection, and rain a slight negative effect on detection. And we did expect that. One thing to keep in mind is we had so many more observations for Pacific Slope than we did for Orange Crown. So these findings are not quite as robust, perhaps, as for Pacific Slope flycatcher. But most of the big takeaways can be pretty similar regarding aircraft noise and forest stage being big drivers of whether this bird is here and whether we can hear it or whether it is singing. So really the big takeaways from all this is that these two birds are adhering pretty strongly to their known and expected habitat types. Also, surprisingly, we heard a lot more of Pacific Slope flycatcher than we did orange crown warbler. So this maybe opens up the question of, how good of an indicator is orange crown warbler? Perhaps not as common of a bird as we thought, or maybe just not as vocal as we thought. The other interesting thing that came out of this was the effect of aircraft events and detecting birdsong. So the fact that that had a positive correlation, I think that really opens up future research possibilities, looking at how anthropogenic noise, particularly aircraft, affects birdsong. So that's an area that I think would be fascinating to venture in on. So the broader significance of all this is that biodiversity loss is increasing while we're depending on these forests more and more. So really having a better ecological understanding of where these birds are occupying the forest, how they're using it. Is it as we would expect? Are they doing something different? All of these things can really help Washington Department of State National Resources in their future efforts for forest management. So those are the big takeaways. And I'd like to thank Dr. Minkova and Lauren Keeney for all of your guidance with this project, and also like to thank Earthwatch Institute, who has partially funded and cooperated on this project. So thank you very much.